Nature versus nurture in stressful situations. It is crucial to understand the meaning of nature and nurture. The concept first analyzed by Francis Galton defines nurture as the genetic predisposition or biological makeup of a person, while nurture is the physical world that influences us in our decisions. The debate is which one has the greatest impact on our physical and mental health. In other words, are we more affected by inherited traits or adapted skills? When humans are faced with stress-inducing situations, meaning threats that are difficult to process physically and mentally, we choose to either fight or flight in response. Fighting in this case can also be defined as resilience. Resilience, defined in the dark side of resilience, is the psychological capacity to adapt to stressful situations and to bounce back from adverse events. In my investigative question, I asked, is our resilience, or the ability to bounce back, characterized more by our nature or nurture? I use artifacts and stimulus, such as The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, The Dark Side of Resilience from the Harvard Business Review, twin studies performed by Peter Neubauer, and The Migrant Mother, photographed by Dorothea Lange, to assist in my findings to answer this question. In a study conducted by the United States Department of Justice, found 1 in 4 inmates in the United States have been diagnosed with serious psychological distress, and nearly half of jail inmates have previous history of mental health disorders. As seen in these numbers, one factor people committed crimes is due to the fact that they have untreated health issues such as anxiety, schizophrenia, or alcoholism, which all can be genetic. However, many of these inmates developed serious psychological distress once they were in jail for an extended period of time. This is because of the atmosphere in prison. In the book, A Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, he described the routine life of prison and the effects it can have on an individual. Although half of prisoners experience inherited disorders, the environment created in prisons hurts people's ability to be resilient. In the Harvard Business Review, The Dark Side of Resilience, the article references ancient Roman philosophers who argued that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, humans gain resilience from the experiences that they have. It is an adaptive trait. There are circumstances which influence becomes detrimental. Adaptation is a result of our environment. In this article, the claim is that situations are based solely on one's environment, and how we handle stress is based on what we have learned. Our influences around us. Resilience is built stronger through the hardships. Humans have to become more resilient in these situations of hardship. And with the combination of both of these things, it is important that our environment and psychological development from former dangers before our time, that we learn from those and continue to grow in the future. The most well-known study on nature versus nurture is known as the Child Development Twin Studies, conducted by Peter Neubauer. In the study, identical twins were separated at birth, and their development was tracked until age 12. The goal was to track human development and whether it was based on our genetics or our environment growing up. By dividing the identical twins, the scientists were able to study without unwanted factors. Robert Schaffman, Eddie Galland, and David Kellman found out that they were a part of this experiment that was performed in the 1960s. Although many results from this experiment are not released, these brothers represent the effects that our nature and nurture have on us. Although they grew up in different economic backgrounds and different experiences in life, all develop similar mental disorders that were later to be found out inherited from their biological father, proving in this case that our resilience is built on our biological makeup and not our environment. Another instance of nurture prevailing over nature is during the Great Depression. During this time of economic hardships, the stress over the cost of living and finding new jobs was exponential. The well-known photograph by Dorothea Lange, titled Migrant Mother, depicts a lower-class woman surrounded by her children, looking out in despair. This powerful image captures the intense situations that the nation was facing during this panic. No matter a person's economic background or psychological differences, the effects of the Great Depression were on everyone, no matter what. In this illustration, the human environment was overbearing because it was out of one's control. But people learned to adapt and be resilient from these stressful situations. New recovery and relief programs were created, which were for citizens and created a stronger community. So, which one is more influential? After reviewing the artifacts, it can be concluded that our resilience in stressful situations is 50% nature and 50% nurture. This is not the same in every case and can fluctuate based on the person or the environment. The American Psychological Association points out that anyone can learn resilience, though it cannot be easy based on your inherited traits. But we are heavily influenced by inherited traits, as seen in the twin studies and Long Walk to Freedom, but also our environment and the ideas we are being taught, as seen in The Migrant Mother and the Dark Side of Resilience. It is important to understand this because it changes the way we teach children, so at a young age they can learn to be more resilient no matter what the situation is. Thank you.
What evidence did you gather you didn't include, and why did you decide not to include it?
Well, I chose to not include information about the evolutionary psychology of anxiety, which was something I focused heavily on in my research paper, because the information overlapped much with what I learned from The Dark Side of Resilience, as it talked about the hardships and how it makes us stronger. Instead, the article focused on the past, so I felt it was irrelevant and overlapped too much to share in my presentation.
Okay, thank you. How is your conclusion in conversation with the body of literature or other research sources that you looked at?
Well, most scientists, anthropologists, and eugenicists have a similar consensus that in most cases, nature versus nurture in stressful situations is roughly 50-50. However, since I just focused on resilience in stressful situations, some scientists have found different evidence based on their questions. For instance, in a Medscape article, they found information about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and claimed that it was 100% genetics. So that created a variety of different opinions across the board.
Okay, thank you. One more round of applause. Now we need you to go back one slide.